Gaming Manual.
Overall, Garfield Caught in the Act is a good game. It's one that you can sit down and play at any time because of how short it is. All of it's there. It feels like an actual episode of Garfield, except you get to have the control of how it plays out. Hey everyone, this is Josh from the Gaming Manual, and on this episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Buggy, we will be taking a look at Garfield Caught in the Act for the Sega Genesis. I remember renting this game a couple of times before I finally got it as a birthday gift, and I played it all the time until I was able to beat it within a single sitting. Well, unless it glitched on me, resulting in a soft lock, but we'll talk about that later. I always felt that this was an underrated game, and one of the few IPs out there that was actually fun to play, and not just a cash grab. The premise is really simple. Garfield breaks the TV, and attempts to repair it, but in doing so, ends up with leftover parts that he tosses behind the chair. Tossing the parts behind the chair somehow creates a monster that zaps Garfield into the TV, forcing him to have to make his way through classic TVs or movie concepts. We'll start with the good. The controls. The controls are straightforward. The D-pad moves you. A button is used to throw projectile, B jumps, and C can be used as a melee swipe. You can also adjust what buttons do what in the options menu, if you prefer a different layout. Each level has different projectiles and weapons that you use for your melee attack. Mechanically, nothing actually changes, but it is a nice little addition to make it feel like Garfield is actually making his way through these different movies. As for the movement, Garfield has a slight startup delay by a couple of frames, which does contribute to the sense of heaviness. I think this actually works in the game's favor, but if you are not familiar with the game, it could seem a little bit sluggish to you. Garfield will also automatically snap onto climbable surfaces when he's jumping near them, such as cliffs or vines, so you don't have to worry about grabbing them manually. But there is one part that I'll talk about later where this actually works against you. Projectiles are useful for hidden enemies that are hard to reach, but it does have limited ammo, so you can't spam it and have to use it carefully. The amount of ammo you currently have available is visible in the bottom right. You can find more throughout each level, but it does restart at the beginning of each section. Your melee is your primary means of attacking. It has a wider arc than what you can actually see, and it reaches above you. This can be useful for hidden enemies overhead. Level design. There are only 5 levels, so it's a rather short game, but all of the levels have a movie theme to them that oddly fits in well with the Garfield humor of the game. Count Slobula. You have to find hidden switches in order to get out of crypts that you keep falling into, a very common trope in more of those spooky, haunted movies. As for the boss fight itself, you actually use the coffins to get enough height in order to grab onto the window shades. Doing so allows you to pull the shade upward and attack the boss using sunlight. After 3 times, you win. Revenge of Orangebeard has moving platforms, but instead of instant death by falling into the water, it just hurts you, which is a nice change for these types of games. There is also a lot of timed jumps and climbing parts that isn't quite up to par with the rest of the game, but I'll discuss that in a little bit. The boss fight is actually fun, as you fight against a skeleton, and you are supposed to fight it by jumping on the parrot's back, flying close, and hitting the boss himself while dodging the skulls that he throws at you. It's actually a lot easier to just stand on the second platform in front of the boss and just throw projectiles at it. You'll take some damage, but it's very easy to abuse the invincibility frames. Just make sure you jump up to safety once the boss is defeated, as you can still take damage and even die, resulting in having to do the boss fight all over again from the very beginning. 3 Million BC has vertical-based platforming mixed with environmental interactions and precision jumping. In the second part of this area, you have to actually climb up a waterfall using broccoli. This is a very common trope for its time, as other games such as Super Mario Bros. 2, The Lion King, and even Donkey Kong Country 3 use similar mechanics where you have to vertically climb up platforms that are moving down. For this boss, you have to dodge falling rocks while pushing a boulder onto a makeshift seesaw and timing it to knock the dinosaur down to the next level where you're at so you can hit it. Casablanca is a maze where the objective is to try to find your way over to the far right side. You can then use the canopy to get up to the window that Odie is at. When you grab Odie's tongue, he'll flip you up onto the rooftops, and from there, you can backtrack to the start, where you'll find a wrecking ball that you need to ride across in order to reach the final exit. The level itself is more puzzle-like and one of my lesser favorites of the game, but it does have my favorite boss fight, where you have to dodge the bombs thrown by the boss while grabbing the undetonated bombs that didn't explode, so you can throw them back at him using the gutters on either side of the fence. It's a clever and interactive boss fight. Curse of Cleopatra. This focuses more on puzzles and traps. Not much to do aside from figuring out how to solve each of these puzzles in each area. There's also a lack of enemies as a result. The boss is also a bit of a puzzle itself, as you have to light sconces on the wall in order to gain access to higher areas. Doing so will allow you to reach the statue's eyes of Odie, which you can break to lower the center statue in the middle. Once the John statue is low enough, you'll be able to attack the eyes of that statue as well. Doing so will lower the statue even more, and the cobra on top will begin attacking you rapidly. Once you destroy the cobra on the top, all you have to do is make your way to the last exit on the far right and prepare for the final level. Technically, there is no final level, but there is a final boss fight, which is both chaotic and a bullet hell. You have to push mirrors throughout the level in order to bounce back some of the attacks that the boss throws at you. Each time the boss takes damage, the level will expand vertically and the boss will move upwards and attack faster. Eventually it becomes a non-stop barrage of projectiles in what feels like a race against time, as the attacks can sometimes feel undodgeable. Music and option menu. The music is great, and it adds both to the level theme and the cartoonish feeling of the game. They have a real distinct Genesis sound to them, and you can listen to them in the options menu. The option menu itself has a password system, so even though the game is short, if you get a game over, it's easy to continue at a later time with just 3 pictures that you have to remember. The most unique thing about this is you can actually access a minigame, and you can play it from here either to practice or if you just enjoy the game Whack-A-Mole. This for me stands out because most games didn't actually give you access to the bonus minigames in such an easy way. The bad. Some of the level design. As I mentioned in Revenge of Orangebeard, there's an area where you have to climb up using vines, and it can be cheated, or rather, it could have been cheated very easily. Instead, the developers put in invisible ceilings above the vines to stop you from jumping straight up. This causes a lot of problems because you need to be able to jump in order to attack, as there is a bird that will periodically show up to attack you. Not to mention, you'll have to get off the vine, and if you don't land on one of the branches, you'll just fall back down. What makes this even worse is that if you get hit while you're on the vine, you'll often fall all the way back to start. Because there is an invisible ceiling, this does not feel like an oversight, but just lazy programming. They slapped it on there like a band-aid and didn't take the time to fix it. Casablanca itself is just a confusing nightmare. It will have you running in loops until you either die, give up, or accidentally fumble your way forward. Just be sure to go slow once you get to the rooftops, if you even make it there, because any mistake you make here will force you all the way back to the start. Since this level is around the halfway point of the game, and was released during the time when rental games were very popular, I believe that this might have been designed this way intentionally to ensure you couldn't beat it within one rental period. A very common practice. Regardless, this part is one that could have been left out and it would still be a fun game. If you do play, I strongly encourage that you use a guide to get through here, so it's a lot less aggravating. Hit detection. The hit detection for your melee attack can sometimes be unreliable, specifically against the smaller enemies. Normally, I wouldn't consider this too much of an issue. You can sometimes take a lot of hits, especially in tight areas where there's a lot of them. It's not too bad to deal with overall, as there's a lot of healing items throughout each level, but it's just unfortunate that they didn't tighten up on the controls versus these smaller projectiles that tend to move around a lot. But it is just annoying to have to deal with it. The bonus level. There are actually 2 different bonus levels in this game. The first one, Commercial Break, is actually fun, to some extent. You do play it after every level that you beat, and all you have to do is collect enough Pokies to earn a life. Collect more and you can earn a continue. The only problem I have with this is that sometimes, especially when you get the coffee, you go too fast to actually be able to collect anything at all. The second bonus game, the Whack-A-Mole, is the one that actually seems to do more harm than good. You have to find the mallet hidden in the stage to access this game. The objective here is to collect all the letters that spell Garfield in order to win a continue. But the game takes so long and is so tedious, I often find myself intentionally losing the game just to move on. This part could have easily been left out. Unfortunately, because it's so time consuming and what you win for it doesn't seem like it's worth the payoff. And I often find myself intentionally losing this game if I end up here. The Buggy. The Softlock glitch. Remember in the 3 million BC level where you're fighting that Odie dinosaur? Well, it's possible that when you hit Odie, he'll actually jump to the left more than he's supposed to. In fact, he just keeps going and never returns. As a result, the rocks stop falling, so you can't take damage, and you end up getting softlock, forcing you to have to reset. This has only happened to me a few times, so I'm not really sure how often it happens or what the cause is. I don't even know how you trigger this intentionally. All I know is that if it does happen, unfortunately, you have no choice but to reset. Clipping through platforms and walls. Sometimes, you can actually clip through some of the platforms or walls. I find that this happens most often in Casablanca. It makes the already annoying level even more annoying. Once again, I am not sure what the cause of this is, but it appears to have to do something with how Garfield automatically grabs onto the ledges. Because he snaps to it, he sometimes will glitch through areas that he's not meant to go to as he tries to snap onto a ledge, even though it's through a wall. As for the platforms, I feel it's somewhere along the same lines, as if you land in just the right way, the game isn't sure whether you should snap on to grab the ledge, or if you landed on top of it, and you end up just passing through. Input loss. This is far less frequent than some of the other glitches I've mentioned, but sometimes there's an input loss. I can't really pinpoint where it is or how it happens, but I've had it happen frequently enough that it's noticeable. This can happen pretty much anywhere in the game, and it's not really reliable as to when and where it happens. You'll sometimes do an input, and the game won't recognize it at all. Usually if you're jumping near a ledge, similar to the previous glitch I mentioned. You can sometimes just have a complete loss of input. Overall, I wouldn't say that this is a horrific glitch. It does impede your ability to play the game smoothly to some extent. Music and sound effect glitch. There's another rare glitch where occasionally, if you manage to take damage and hit an enemy at just the right time, you can actually cause the background music or current sound effect to bug out and will continue to hold the note. There's not much you can do other than proceed on to the next area. Once you move on to the next area, it resolves itself. But it's very rare to happen, and I've only had this one happen a couple times, even less than the soft lock. Overall, Garfield Caught in the Act is a good game. It's a very generic feeling platformer for an IP compared to other ones that are cash grabs, but it's one that I remember fondly, and I strongly encourage you giving it a try. It's one that you can sit down and play at any time because of how short it is. All of the humor, all the cartoonish effects, all of it's there. It feels like an actual episode of Garfield, except you get to have the control of how it plays out. I recommend trying it for yourself any way you can. This is Josh from the Gaming Manual. If you like what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Let us know of your opinion of the game in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.